Well, I asked, where's the beef? Let's call this for what this is. Oh my God! They are so hopelessly woke. How dare you? That is the intellectual capital of the left today. Give me a break. You are now watching the Daily Roundup.
Oh, good morning, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Rebel News Daily Roundup. I'm your host today, Sheila Gunn-Reid. It's normally hosted by my friend David Menzies, but we're undergoing some studio construction, so we're using remote hosts for the duration of the week. And I'm joined by my friend Drea Humphrey, who's wearing a very Sheila-looking outfit. How's it going, Drea?
Yeah, it is pretty. I got my lumberjack sweater and my Justin Castro shirt. If you haven't got it yet, you can't see it that good, but it's amazing. My favorite at our rebelnewsstore.com. And I get so many compliments wearing this. So if you really haven't picked up this is really good. It goes a long way. I was at the airport once wearing it, and I could tell you so many of the workers at the airports were like, I like your shirt. I don't know. Must have been all the troubles they had during COVID with their situations and layoffs.
Yeah, it's funny. You know where I got recognized was at the Vancouver airport very recently. Like, of all the airports on the face of the earth, the Vancouver airport, Kian and I, to save money, we were taking these like extremely oppressive flights, like super early, to get from, I think it was St. John. No, I forget where, I lost track of where I was. I think it was to get to Regina. We had to go from the East Coast all the way to Vancouver and then turn around and come back to Regina to save money. And I'm in the Vancouver airport and we have like a bit of a layover and some guy's like, Sheila? I'm like, oh, I look awful. I've been flying since 3 a.m. But yes, nice to meet you. And then I was in the St. John airport and some lady's like, oh my goodness, I love your work. Like in the St. John airport and was, you know, the moral of the story is, I think nobody would care to thank the good folks at CBC for their work, but as rebels, we get thanked all the time out in the world for fighting for the little guy, and I guess they're thanking us, but we're just the recipient of the thanks because we couldn't do any of the work that we do without our friends at home supporting the work that we do because we don't take a penny from Justin Trudeau.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I should tell everybody what we're doing here. As we said, this is the Rebel News Daily Roundup. It's normally hosted by David, but again, studio construction has sort of sidelined that for a couple of days. And this is wherein we talk about the news of the day completely unscripted. And so, you know, it's not going to be like the CBC's National. So if you're looking for that, go watch that network that nobody else watches. So you'll get a conservative viewpoint on the news of the day. And the stories as they happen. And this is a chance for us to interact with each other, Drea and I, because we both work remotely, but it also gives us a chance to interact with our viewers and our viewers to interact with each other in the live chats happening on YouTube, Rumble, and Odyssey. And if you want to support the work that we do completely willingly, maybe migrate away from the censorship platform of YouTube because we're completely demonetized over there. And if you want to throw us some money in a paid chat on Rumble, it's called a Rumble Rant. On Odyssey, it's called a Hyper Chat. If it's over $5 US, we'll do our best to read those at the end of the show. Or Drea likes to butt in and read them when they're relevant, which might be a better way of doing them. I don't know. You know, like I force people to stick around to the end, but Drea, you know, she talks about the things as they are still topical for the show. So, you know, there's something here for everybody. I think that's it. We should, before we move into the news, we should talk about Tamara Leach's Hold the Line book tour. She's taking her book across the country. Her book is called Hold the Line, My Story from the Heart of the Freedom Convoy. And it will make you mad. It'll make you sad, but you will learn things that you didn't know from the inner workings of the Freedom Convoy and behind the scenes. You can get the book at theconvoybook.com. And with regard to the book tour, it's selling out all across the country. And so if you want to know if Tamara is bringing her book tour to a city or town near you, and don't think that we're just going to big cities, because we're not. I mean, they're in Huntsville, they're in other small town, Aylmer. So Creemore, I don't even know where Creemore is, and I'm pretty familiar with Ontario. You can click on learn more, and it'll take you to buy tickets, and it's a book signing. She might even do a little blubbity blah, as they say, a little talk. And it's a great chance to meet the person who I think scared the daylights out of all the politicians in the country and made this place a freer country. And she has paid the extreme consequences for it. And it's still not over. So that's theconvoybook.com.
And you get a chance to see her in BC too, as well as the fabulous documentary that you worked on, Sheila, Church Under Fire. So I'm really excited about both of those things. So if you're in BC, check it out there too.
Yeah, it's churchunderfiremovie.com for details about screenings. We're adding screenings if you want to have a screening, host a screening, if you're a venue that is resilient to the council mob, because they might come for you too. Please contact us at churchunderfiremovie.com. You can see the trailer there too. And, we'd be happy to bring the movie to your community. And we're working on licensing, and we're working on DVDs. So there's a whole bunch of things happening. And the best way to stay up to date is churchunderfiremovie.com. Okay. Let's get into this
quickly.
video.
Here's me butting in, but someone's quickly asking if the book covers her time in jail. I just got the book yesterday, so I don't know the answer. Do you, Sheila? Does it cover her time in jail? I would imagine some of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay. Also, if you want to know more about her time in jail, why don't you go to a book signing and ask her?
Exactly.
I think it is the hottest video on the internet right now, and I'm just gonna bring it up because my YouTube history is really something to behold, you guys.
I know. I screened, especially covering all like the sexual stuff happening to kids in schools. I have like the weirdest screenshots in my phone. Like someone's gonna think I'm such a weirdo.
The Alex Jones. When I opened up my YouTube app, it was the Alex Jones remix of They're Turning the Frogs Gay, but I had a good reason for that. Anyway, I just popped my YouTube app open because I wanted to know what the view count is on YouTube right now for David Menzies' incredible journalistic masterpiece. And this wasn't just David Menzies. I mean, he's the guy in front of the camera, but Efron, you too, you were there. You were running the camera. He's not just our head of video. He is also a skilled videographer, as you must be to be our head of video. David Menzies went to Fergus, Ontario, where I actually know where Fergus is. And the Fergus Highlanders is a women's rugby team. And, it's just women's league. It's not, it's not national level. It's not even provincial level. It's women's league. And the Fergus Highlanders have a biological man, I think based on the number on his jersey, playing hook. And he has male pattern baldness, the powerful legs of someone who would play hook. So in the center of the scrum, it's 15s league. So 15s is basically tackling. It's not fast like sevens rugby. It's not like there's a lot of players on the field and they're just piling into each other. It's running into contact constantly. And he plays on the Fergus Highlanders. And we had gotten wind of a previous story by our friend Joe Warmington, who wrote up the catastrophe on the field in June when this man was tackling women all over the place. Looks like he weighs about 220 pounds, standing 5'10", so big boy. His name is Ash, and 3 women were taken off the field as injured in that game. And, you know, it is rugby. People are taken off the field as injured, but the chances of injury are far greater when a 220-pound man is smashing into much smaller women. And so David Menzies is champion of women's rights. Headed down there to the field. Sorry, go ahead.
No, sorry. My son is yelling at me. Ignore me. Go on.
Oh, work from home problems. So anyways, David Menzies, champion of women's rights and fairness in sport. And for those of you who know me, women's rugby is very near and dear to my heart. David Menzies went down there to ask everybody involved, what the hell is going on here? How do you think this is fair? And so let's show clip 1, if you wouldn't mind.
34-21.
Mr. Davis, Ash, why are you doing this? I'm David Menzies, Rebel News.
Hi. No, you're not really a part of this. Human rights.
What about the human rights of biological women being injured by this man? As a mother, why would you expose your kids to a massage?
That is my partner. That is my wife that you are being.
So he's a lesbian?
It's not a sport, or it's not an issue.
I'm a registered social worker, sir, and I demand human rights for everybody.
Oh, okay.
They just. Yeah, what's a biological female?
How do you feel about a biological male playing in rugby, man?
Thank you. I don't really give a fuck. Everybody!
Okay. I don't know what is a crime anymore.
Well, sometimes we all ask ourselves that, right?
So much there.
Where do we so start much to? There. I don't know. Okay, I like the lady who appeals to her position as a social worker. I'm a social worker, and I demand human rights for everybody. What?
And
why do I care if you're a social worker?
I know, right? Like that question. But David had the perfect response. Okay, then what about biological women's rights not to be tackled by a man? Like, it's right. If you really do care what you believe, then what about that? And of course, that goes in one ear and out the other. I just want to say the one person saying that that's their wife, I'm a little confused because according to Joe Warmington's article, this person identifies as non-binary and is in the process of transitioning. So it's a very confusing situation. As you can see, he's not trying very hard by the looks of it, but he's a transitioning person. But even so, it doesn't dismiss the whole reason that David has his boots on the ground, which is, I love that. It's a journalistic masterpiece to take the people there, see what's happening right in front of themselves. And I think we even have some footage of him tackling the girls.
Look at this.
Yeah, look at that.
Now, I can show you, like, I've got plenty of videos of my daughter coming in like a freight train. But she's a girl. Like, all things considered, yes, my daughter is strong, she's powerful, and she's better than a lot of players on the field. But she's a girl. The playing field is at least equal. This is a dude who's undergone testosterone puberty. He carries far more muscle mass. His cardiovascular system is bigger and more efficient than the women on the field. His bone density is greater. And you can tell by his male pattern baldness that there's still a lot of testosterone kicking around in that body. And that woman who's like, that's my wife. So nothing has changed. Just the pronouns.
Yeah. Just the
pronouns.
That's
the only thing that's changed here. Just the pronouns. You know what? Frankly, I was surprised to see he's throwing the ball in on the lineout. I thought he would be a lifter. That sort of shocked me when I was watching. I was like, I thought he'd be a lifter, but I guess he's throwing it in on the lineout. But it's just so atrocious. And of course, the girls on his team are fine with it.
Right.
You're cheating. Like, you're cheating. Yeah. Of course you're fine with it.
Well, not, and just to give more of an example of what it feels like to be on the receiving end of ashes, tackles, back to that Toronto Sun article, one of the players who, of course, isn't going on record because it's terrifying to do so, says, "We are women," said a female player on the receiving end of the tackle. "It's a whole other thing playing rugby against men. I had never been hit like that before, even at the competitive women's level. There was so much more brute force. There are women who are bigger than him, but no girls hit like that. This is a strong human." So there is a clear difference for the reasons that you said. But here's these, women on the other team being tackled. And of course, they don't want to come forth on the camera and be like, yes, our rights too, right? So that's another reason why I love that David and Efron went out and got the story to show people with their own eyes.
Well, and what boggles my mind is everybody's just sitting there like this is completely normal. But they know it is in no way normal or fair or just. It reminded me of an Orwell quote. "The party told you to reject the evidence of your eyes and ears. It was their final, most essential command." And that's from 1984. By the way, we've reissued 1984 here at Rebel News with a whole new slate of original illustrations in it. And it's never been more relevant because it feels like a periodical. Like it feels like a newspaper and not a work of fiction, because we're currently living through this, because these people in the crowd are rejecting the evidence of their eyes and ears, the things they know to be true. And some of it are doing it because their minds are broken, and others are doing it because they're scared, because they will cancel you. They will ruin your life, destroy your life. You will be called a bigot for not only saying, okay, well, that's a dude. Like, I know it's a dude. It's like the emperor has no clothes. But also for not affirming and applauding loudly enough. It's very North Korean that way. It's not even enough for you to say, okay, well, just live your life, whatever, I don't care. If you don't clap and applaud and celebrate enough, if you are not the brightest rainbow shirt at the Pride Parade, then you're a bigot too. You may as well be just like me.
Well, that's 1984 right there too, where they're all just like crazily cheering, and Winston's like, why is that happening? So check out that book. That's also a book I got yesterday. I've been rereading a copy I already had, but I got the R book in, and it is beautiful. But also, based on what you're saying, it reminds me of the part in this awesome report where he's with the 19-year-old rugby player who's like, well, what is a biological woman? So now we've gone from pretending we don't know what a woman is to actually pretending like there is no such thing as a biological female, I should say. Do we have a clip of that? Or
yeah, that's the next clip. Let's show it. This is crazy.
Yeah, what's a biological female?
Well, I would imagine if you're born with female genitalia versus male genitalia.
Where did you get your PhD?
Pardon me?
You're defining a biological female. Where did you get your PhD?
So I'm defining them, but ma'am, in the history of sports, all sports, with the exception of equestrian or auto race.
There for history. I'm only 19 years old. I cannot say what happened 20 years ago because I wasn't. No,
but in the here and now, you see male tennis, female tennis, right?
I don't see any tennis. I don't watch tennis.
Oh, okay then. So it doesn't exist then.
To me, you can't ask me a question about it because I have no idea. Just the same as you can't talk about what a female is if you're not a doctor.
I can't? What is a female then? Do you have a definition?
No, I'm not a doctor.
Well, how do you like that? You have to be a doctor in order to define what a female is. You know what? I think she has a kindred spirit south of the border. That U.S. Supreme Court Justice, a female herself, can I call her that? Who was unable last year to define the word woman.
Can you provide a definition for the word woman?
Can I provide a definition?
No. Yeah.
I can't.
You can't?
Not in this context.
So
I'm not a biologist.
The meaning of the word woman is so unclear and controversial that you can't give me a definition?
That blows my mind.
Yeah.
It's like that social worker. It's an appeal to authority, right? I'm a social worker, so I'm smarter than you. You don't have a PhD, so you couldn't possibly know what a woman is. Like David Menzies, I'm reliably informed, is married to a very lovely woman. Like I'm pretty sure he knows what a woman is. He's sure that his beautiful wife is one. So am I. I'm not a doctor. I know that I have 2 girls in my house, biological girls in my home. Drea, I think you're a woman. I don't have a PhD. I don't have a master's in biology, but I'm pretty sure you're a woman. Like, this is nonsense that you have to have a white lab coat to be able to figure out what a woman is. Like, how did we get to here?
It's absolutely terrifying. Like, on the one hand, I'm like, she can't possibly believe the words that are coming out of her mouth. This is just collectivism. It's what she thinks she has to say. It's the cues that she's been groomed to come and say. On the other hand, I'm like, is it possible that people have been indoctrinated, kids, 19-year-old, to the point that they literally are confused about what a female is, what a woman is these days? Either way, I'm terrified to see this happening. I have a teenage girl. I don't even know how I would react if I heard that dumb question come out of her mouth. It's I find it really scary, to be honest, because how did this happen in just a few years? Everybody knew what
Very
a woman
quickly.
and a female was like 5 years ago.
For the duration of human history, by the way. Like, we knew forever what a woman was until very recently. We're like, actually, we don't. Really? I think Jordan Peterson says it very well, and I'm going to paraphrase him because I don't know the exact quote, but he about this sort of burning it all down very recently, this, like, actually maybe after the duration of human history, we know what a woman is. All of a sudden, we don't know what a woman is. He says, don't discount the knowledge of the people who came before you, because they did some figuring out of stuff and dealing with issues that you don't even realize existed for them. Exactly. And so they've figured it out. They've figured it out for you. Don't presume you know things that they didn't. And that's what we're doing right now. We're sort of discarding all these rules about society that the young people don't even realize the reasons they exist, or the problems, like the problems that must have presented themselves for us to be forced to figure these things out. Like Ezra refers to some of the Noahide rules in the Bible, where it's like, don't eat things that are alive. What were we doing that they had to tell us not to eat things that were alive, right? Like, what was the state of mankind that we were eating things that were still living? And so, don't throw those rules out because you don't know why we had to put that rule down. It's very scary. We've got one more, like, sort of sideshow issue on this before we move on. Although I could talk about this all day because
I know, right?
Women's rugby is very near and dear to my heart. We got an email from somebody who appears in this video right after it was published, probably because they realized how stupid they look. And the person said, basically, I don't give you permission to use my images in your video. And I'm just going to give everybody a quick little lesson at home. Yeah. If you are in a public place or a presumed public place, you don't have the expectation of privacy. So if you're in a public park watching something happen, you don't actually have an expectation of privacy. You know that you're in public. Now, if someone were to barge into your home or someplace like that, or your workplace, and it's a workplace where the public can't enter into. Yeah, like a doctor's office. Yes, not like say you are working in a grocery store. Well, the public is allowed in there, so you really don't have an expectation of privacy. So don't email us and say, take my face out of your video. We're not gonna. Sorry, we're just not.
And I've gotten those emails many times. It's like swipe.
I see them all. I'm one of the people that makes the decisions to say, like, no, actually, you were in a public place. So I'm just telling you right now, I'm not going to take you out of that video, especially if you said something crazy. So anyways, this guy emails us and says, I don't give you permission. I don't need your permission. And he's I was going to say he's smart, but I think he's an educated man, and those things are not They're not synonymous. They can mean
They can't
smart and
define what a woman
educated.
is. Let's put it that
Smart
way.
and educated are not always the same word.
Yeah.
So emails us from a University of Guelph email address. And so I'm like, oh, nice University of Guelph's email address. And somebody else on the team's like, let's find his bio on the University of Guelph website. It doesn't even matter who this guy is, but it's his interests, the things he's studying that I was like, oh God, this guy is confirming every bias I have about these people, right? Just go back up for a second, because he studies plastic bag bans, focusing on the causes and impacts of single-use plastic bans, situated in the field of discard studies. What that means is he studies garbage for a living, and this is what he does at the University of Guelph. And so it's just a little on the nose is all I have to say. Anyway, I just thought that was interesting. And a quick lesson to everybody out there. Yeah, a quick lesson to everybody out there. If you are in a Rebel News video and you're saying something crazy, and then you come to regret the crazy thing that you said, I'm not taking you out of the video. I'm not. Yeah. So don't email me. I don't care. I just don't. There was one other point of the video, and I encourage everybody to watch it. It's like 20 minutes long, but it is doesn't feel that way at all. There's a really excellent interaction with the police where David is on his best behavior and the cop is doing his job. Actually, the cop with a great attitude. It was wonderful. He's like, this isn't a crime. We're just here to keep the peace. I'm not here to arrest anybody, which is kind of new for David Menzies. But there's a point at which the women of the Fergus Highlanders try to form a human chain to prevent David Menzies from doing his job. And it perfectly summarizes the point of the whole video, because as they lock hands to prevent David Menzies, he just goes around them and then just eventually walks right through them, because he's an adult male and these are just smaller, much smaller women. Like, look at that. There's 3 of them. These are women athlete rugby players. And David Menzies is like, okay, well, I'll just walk right through you, which he did. And David is a man of a certain vintage. He's got 2 artificial hips, but he could walk right through these 3 female athletes. Like it's nothing, which is the point of the whole video, by the way, that these 3 couldn't stop our David.
And what are they doing? Why don't they just walk away from him? They don't want to be in the report. It makes no sense. You're just causing such a scene. But it reminds me of Red Rover, where that was such a game where you could definitely tell the differences between boys and girls, if you recall. I just remember, locking arms, and as soon as the boys would charge, they would always already bust right through. Sometimes I would try to wiggle myself away because, unlike your daughter, Sheila, I'm not that. I'm not the toughest.
Look, he just walks right through them.
I'd be like trying to pull away when the boys were running because I knew it was going to hurt my arm, and the other person didn't want to lose, so they'd hold on to me. But that's what it reminds me of. And it's perfect. I'm glad you pointed that out. Yeah.
I just don't know what they're doing here. Like, what did they stop him from doing? They just annoyed him a little bit. But it's like walking into a stiff wind. Like, he just was like, okay, well, I'll just keep walking. Because they can't stop him, and they know they can't stop him.
Yeah.
Anyway. It's a wonderful video. It's a real journalism out in the field.
Yeah, go watch it after this if you haven't seen it yet, because you won't regret it. It's worth it.
And it's the kind of journalism only Rebel News could do. Only Rebel News will do. Where David is the perfect, happy temperament, doesn't get mad, keeps his cool, but it's on-the-ground journalism on these issues that everybody else is sort of too scared to touch, and or if they do touch them, they sort of insert themselves into the story. That's not what we did here. We just went there to basically say, what the hell is going on here? And we still frankly don't know.
No. And the change room situation, because Ash ends up in the change room, right? With the girls.
Right.
So there's that too.
Of course he does. This guy is really, I mean, he gets to change with the girls. He gets to play against girls, where he is ultimately probably the best hook in the league. And he gets to take his aggression out on women who probably have rejected him his entire life because he seems quite mediocre and he doesn't understand what chivalry is or anything like that.
Except for his wife. Don't forget his wife.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's living the life, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, if you are a misogynist of a certain level of mediocrity, pretending to be a woman is probably the way to go.
And you get to be a really good player because you're not playing with the guys.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. I remember when, do you remember picking teams when you were a kid in school? And you would always make the best players captains, the two best players, right? Captains, so that people didn't fight over picking them and then they were forced to pick everybody else. It was the fairest way to do it. And you'd have to go boy, girl, boy, girl, boy, girl when you were picking. So that the teams were evenly distributed, because you can stack them all with boys and the other team is all girls. That wouldn't be fair. But now we've completely thrown that out the window.
I think it's starting to come around. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's hit an ad break, please. Efron, thanks.
In a world plagued by conformity, where truth is distorted, freedom is a distant memory, and Big Brother is always watching. One man, Winston Smith, looks to break through his bleak existence. Introducing the all-new Rebel Illustrated Classics edition of George Orwell's iconic book, 1984. Now, more than ever, in the age of lockdowns, 15-minute cities, and World Economic Forum globalism, everyone must read 1984. Uncover the hidden depths of this literary classic with our exclusive illustrated edition that brings Orwell's haunting vision to life, reborn with a foreword by Ezra Levant and 30 captivating new illustrations by artist Paul Ravoch.
You see that Orwell is not only explaining what might come, but in my opinion, what's already here, even back when he wrote it in 1949, but much more so as we see revealed today, particularly with the last 3 years.
Join the rebellion against conformity. Get your hands on the Rebel Illustrated Classics edition of 1984, now available at buy1984.com.
How in the world could such a small group of people with limited resources change world history? But in fact, that's happening, and it's the power of the truth. The truth is like kryptonite.
Healthcare isn't in some sense working very well. Foster Colson is thinking about this. He's got a new company, an online healthcare platform called the Wellness Company.
Telehealth company called the Wellness Company.
The Wellness Company.
The most popular product is the detoxification supplement that features nattokinase. Nattokinase is the only enzyme that we're aware of right now that dissolves the spike protein. Spike protein is loaded in the body with the COVID-19 infection and definitely with the vaccines. We've been completely accurate on the spread of the virus, early treatment, on the deficiencies in hospital care, and now the deaths that are occurring after vaccination. This is a human outrage, and it's occurring at the end of a hypodermic needle. Isn't it interesting? Natural substances combating this man-made disaster.
No matter what, God will bring us through. And I said, we will not bow down to your gods.
For tickets, showtime details, and to see the trailer, please go to SaveTheChristians.com.
All right, we're back. Let's head into federal politics, because yesterday was the shuffle of the cabinet, and I think 7 cabinet ministers were out and 4 have decided to leave politics altogether. A lot of reputations were burned over the last little bit. Looks like a government in chaos. Before we go into this clip, let's just, I wrote it up yesterday because it was so fun. Yara Sachs. Yara Sachs. Efron, I don't know if you can find that article I wrote yesterday, because I was like, wait, who did they appoint as the mental health minister? I'm full of jokes. I'm going to keep them to myself. But Yara Sachs, for those of you who don't know, is an MP for, I think it's York Centre. Yes. The Liberal MP who said honk honk means Heil Hitler is promoted to mental health minister. Yara Sachs, the former parliamentary secretary to the Minister of Families, Children and Social Development, will replace Carolyn Bennett as the Minister of Mental Health. Anyways, you can see the jokes write themselves.
Literally everything is now officially racist. It's going to be that.
And so she made a complete international fool of herself in the House of Commons, like drawing these saying just crazy, the worst form of conspiracy theory that like honk honk starts with HH, which is like a signal, a bat signal to the white supremacists of the world, and that means Heil Hitler. That's what she thought. You know, maybe if we have that clip, we could show it.
Yeah.
But she made a buffoon of herself, and because everybody else has torched their reputations in the Liberal caucus, and other ones are leaving, this is what we're left with. This absolute kookaloo. Why don't we show this?
How many guns need to be seized? How much vitriol do we have to see of honk honk, which is an acronym for Hail Hitler, do we need to see by these protesters on social media?
Like, where did she get that?
I don't know. They just say things and think it will stick. I mean, how else can you encourage people to honk the horn? What else are they supposed to say? If anything, if anybody was going to take offense to honk honk, you'd think it would be white people, because it reminds me of a racial slur against white people. If you were really going to grasp at straws, that's where it should lead you, if anything. It's so insane.
And so after she did that, she gets a promotion to the Minister of Mental Health. And again, I say the jokes write themselves. I'm going to keep them to myself. But yeah, like this is what we're left with in the cabinet. And I think Pierre Poilievre did a good job of pointing that out yesterday. Let's hit clip 1 if you wouldn't mind.
Mendicino removed from the role of public safety.
Thank you for the question. Yes, I am glad to see Marco Mendicino out. But, you know, he was just telling a lot of lies on behalf of Justin Trudeau. He lied about the use of the Emergencies Act, claiming police told him to do it. They did not. He lied when he said that Trudeau wasn't going to ban hunting rifles. Well, we then saw that there's a list of about 300 pages of hunting rifles Trudeau planned to ban. And in fact, Trudeau went on to admit that he was banning hunting rifles. He lied about his knowledge of the government's transfer of Paul Bernardo out of a maximum security penitentiary, and he lied about the fact that it was the Liberals' own law that had caused that unacceptable and traumatizing transfer of this monster. But I think he was telling those lies on behalf of Justin Trudeau. So it's all well and good to fire one incompetent minister, but it's Justin Trudeau who should have been fired.
Can't say I disagree there. But yeah, you know, I think I also saw Trudeau get asked that question about why he let him go, and he just, of course, did what he always does and didn't actually answer the question. But it is good to see him go. But the truth is, how do you get away with so many lies and not get, dismissed beforehand? That does fall directly on Prime Minister Trudeau.
Well, and is Mendicino really the guy? You look at Marco Mendicino, and I'm not convinced he's smart enough to come up with those lies on his own. These are talking points fed to him by the PMO. He's just the guy saying them.
Yeah.
Really, he's just the mouthpiece for Justin Trudeau. But he's the guy paying the political consequences for being the mouthpiece for Justin Trudeau. So Justin Trudeau gets to be the hero, I suppose, for shuffling out this highly incompetent liar out of his portfolio. But those were, as Poilievre points out, Justin Trudeau's lies coming out of his mouth. And I see that you dropped a video in the chat here about
his response or lack thereof to why he did it.
Let's show that if you wouldn't mind, Efron. So when Justin Trudeau was asked a similar question, basically like, why did you fire Marco Mendicino? Old make him up Marco. Why did you fire him? He doesn't answer it at all. He just sort of does his Trudeau thing where he's like, you ask him about, what color the sky is, and he tells you what he had for breakfast. He does that here too.
15 minutes pour les questions immédiates et on va commencer avec Ryan Tumulty from the National Post.
Yeah, good morning, Prime Minister. Can you explain your decision to fire Marco Mendicino, Mona Forte, and David Lametti and remove them entirely from your cabinet?
I want to thank everyone who has served this country and this cabinet so well over the past number of years. This is a moment where putting forward the strongest possible team with fresh energy and a range of skills that are going to be able to continue the really important work of showing Canadians the positive and ambitious vision for the future that we're so committed to and that I know Canadians need and deserve. I'm really excited about the work we're doing, and quite frankly, we have a huge team in caucus and across the country working really hard to deliver for Canadians in all sorts of great ways.
Pourriez-vous répéter en français?
No surprise there. It reminds me of when he was being questioned about the whole We scandal and his family making money. And then he's like, I just want to say I'm really proud of my mother. It's like he thinks if you respond with a positive sounding phrase, then people will just be easily fooled that you didn't actually answer anything.
I just feel like I'm stupider for having listened to that whole clip, and I'm very sorry to the audience who sat through it with me, because that it's like mind melding nonsense. Like it just melts the inside of your brain, and you learn nothing, and you're a little bit dumber at the end of it all. I don't know, but good for the guy from the National Post for actually asking a question. Good for him.
Yeah, and of course you can see Krista Freeland in the background, who should have been shuffled out the door, but doing the awkward bob in the back to every word that he says as usual. So she's right there.
I don't
still
know. I don't want to pick on her, but I think she burns a lot of calories in a day with all of her fidgeting and bobbing and nonsense. And so you would think that those dresses would start to fit her better, but they never do. They never do.
Sheila.
It's very sad. Okay, let's move ahead. I'm just being mean. I'm going to be honest with the viewers. I'm not feeling well today. So
the spirit of I think the spirit of Menzies got in you as the host. That's something he loves talking about fashion.
I'm going to be honest. I'm not feeling the best today. I think the viewers should know. And I think it's manifesting in some of my comments. And I'm very sorry. I'm going to try to bring it back and behave myself. Let's move ahead to this Poilievre clip. It's clip 2. Poilievre accuses Trudeau of breaking the immigration system. Okay, it's broken. We can't handle the amount of immigrants coming. What are you going to do about it, Poilievre? Apparently nothing. Let's watch.
Good afternoon, Mr. Poilievre. My question is on immigration. As you know, Canada is on track to have about 500,000 new immigrants to the country by 2025. And I'm wondering if you think this is sustainable and if a Conservative government led by you would continue that trend and would be satisfied with that 500,000 a year number.
Justin Trudeau has broken our immigration system. We see this on the streets of Toronto, where refugees are living on the pavement. It wasn't like this 8 years ago. When refugees came to Canada, we had them sponsored by charities, churches, mosques, synagogues, other nonprofits to give them homes, help them write resumes, and get them fast work permits so that they could get jobs and paychecks. We see it in the new movement online of immigrants who are saying they're going back because they can't afford to live here in Canada. After 8 years of Trudeau, many immigrants feel like they're better off where they came from because the costs and the crime that Trudeau's policies have unleashed make this country unlivable for newcomers and for those who've been here a long time. I want to get back to common sense immigration. The numbers should be driven by the number of employers who have job vacancies that they cannot fill with Canadians, by the number of charities that want to sponsor refugees, and by the families that can reunite and support their loved ones here, not by egotistical targets that are designed to give Justin Trudeau a vanity project. We need to get back to competent immigration. By the way, we need to expand housing construction. It's all well and good to think that you can increase the population by 1 million people in a year, but where are we going to house everybody? We now have, last year, we built fewer homes than we built in 1972. Think about that. In 1972, our population was 22 million, and we built 250,000 homes. Last year, our population was 40 million, and we built 219,000 homes. So we have nearly double the population, and we're building fewer homes. Is it?
Okay, so this goes on for 3 whole minutes, 3 whole minutes, and Poilievre never addresses the problem with the fact that we don't have the systems and infrastructure in place to keep up to the amount of immigrants we are bringing into this country every single year. And that is not an anti-immigration statement. It's actually a pro-immigration statement, because we want the immigrants we are bringing into this country to succeed, to be able to find housing, to be a benefit to this country, to be a place of freedom and prosperity, to live the Canadian dream. We can't do that if we're bringing in too many of them where they can't integrate, they can't find jobs, they can't find housing, they can't find services, they can't find schooling. And their presence here drives up the cost of everything else, because it's the laws of supply and demand. We're setting up new Canadians for failure. But what is the consensus in Ottawa is that this 500,000 immigrant target every single year is just fine and dandy. But if you poll the people and not the party leaders, it is across all parties, including the NDP, where they say, we're setting immigrants up for failure. There are just too many of them coming in every year, and they can't integrate, and we can't help them. So we got to pump the brakes on it. It's across all parties. The polling shows it consistently, year over year over year. And yet the party leaders are so detached from that reality. They complain about inflation, but they don't ever say, okay, well, we have no houses. We are not building houses. There's no housing supply. How are we going to house an extra 500,000 people every single year? That's a half in Edmonton we're bringing into this country every single year. And we don't have the infrastructure to support them. Do something about it. Take the stance and say, okay, we're going to half that. We're going to bring in 250,000 and at least catch up to ourselves. But nobody ever says that. And I don't know why, because it's not politically unpopular.
I think it comes down to cowardice. Personally, I'm just saying, I think people find it too confrontational, so they wouldn't say it. It's the obvious answer of what needs to happen if we can't take care of the people who are coming. It's not rocket science. We can't even get them their SIN numbers, by the way. I've done reports on that where they're out there in lineups every day waiting to try to get a SIN number so that they can work when they come here. And they're saying things like, this isn't what we thought it was. You know, we were welcomed here and now we can't even work. It takes them months upon months just to get that, let alone a house. And of course, like he mentioned, there's not enough houses being built. So it is discouraging to see that, leader of the opposition can't get that together and just say, what is the solution? At least working towards a solution here, which of course, obviously is slowing down the pace, the rate at which this is happening. So.
Yeah, like I don't understand why you don't just say, okay, we're going to half the number of migrants that are coming in, or immigrants, sorry, these are immigrants, these are not migrants. Right. We're going to have the number of migrants or immigrants that are coming in this year, and then maybe the next year we'll up it by 50,000. And if you think that the Canadian economy needs another 500,000 people brought in every single year, okay, but let's ramp up to that, because right now we can't accommodate that. I don't know why that, and to say it exactly how I said it, we're not we're not doing the people we're bringing into our country on the promise of something better any failure or any favors.
And he is right that there are immigrants actually leaving Canada because they're getting hit with these blocks. I've met some of them too who I knew, and then they left for the same reasons. It's like it's all been a big ball of smoke when they came here, and they're like, you know what, I could get more done where I came from.
Yeah, for sure. Let's just quickly hit this tweet here, and then because we're rapidly running out of time, because I knew that David Menzies' video would take up so much space. I just knew it. I just knew I'd have a lot to say. Polling Canada, federal polling right now puts the Conservative Party of Canada nearly 10 points up on the Liberals, which is exactly why they had that cabinet shuffle. They shuffled out some of the more problematic idiots out of cabinet, but I don't think all that does is leave you with more problematic idiots. And so I don't know how the Liberals are going to save themselves. When you see, by the way, people who are saying there's an election right around the corner, when you see these numbers, I was going to ask you. I don't think so. You
don't think so?
If you were a Liberal, if you were a Liberal, would you want to call an election right now?
No, I don't think so. But so many people are saying, oh, rumors. And I'm like, but it doesn't make any sense to call it now. Unless you look at it one way. If you lose, well, you can blame everything that's happened with the economy on the Conservatives. So you might want to give it a try before the Conservatives become more popular. But overall, I agree. I don't think it's happening.
Well, and also what this data shows is the more people get to know Pierre Poilievre, who really needs to put his glasses back on. He does look like Milhouse when Milhouse doesn't have his glasses. It's very unsettling to look at. I'm not used to it. I don't expect it, and I definitely don't like it. He's got eyes like, as my mother-in-law would say, 2 pee holes in the snow. And that's not just me being mean. He's got these little tiny beady eyes, and his glasses help with that.
Put the glasses on.
Put them on. But it shows that the more people get to know Pierre Poilievre, the more they are rejecting the mainstream media construction of who and what Pierre Poilievre is. They're learning for himself that he's just kind of this snarky nerd who is much smarter than Justin Trudeau, more thoughtful than Justin Trudeau, and believes in smaller government, regardless of how the mainstream media and the Liberals, but as I always say, I'm repeating myself here, how they are painting or try to paint him out to be this either an extremist or someone who would hobnob with extremists and be just fine with it. People are learning for themselves, the longer this goes on, that he's actually none of those things.
Exactly. Now, what about this combo? Of course, this is a poll, so take it whichever way you want to take it. But is this enough for a majority? It seems very close. What do you think?
I think it's close. And if you look at some of these numbers, it looks like some of the Liberal support is going to the Conservatives, but also over to the Green Party. And the one who's really not paying the political price for any of this is the NDP, which they really should, because there would be no Liberals in power if not for the NDP.
This is true. Yeah. Well, we'll see what continues to happen, but I agree. I don't think there's going to be an election called, but we shall see.
No, people are musing about it, but I can't see that it would happen anytime soon unless the NDP broke ranks with Liberals and caused the government to fall in a confidence vote. But I just can't see them doing it because the NDP are getting everything that they need right now out of the Liberals. They're basically running the show over there. So, why would they cause the government to fall? They get the best of both worlds, and they don't seem to be paying a political price for it by NDP supporters, which boggles my mind. Basically, they get to go in the media and complain about Justin Trudeau, but then go in the House of Commons and vote alongside of him.
Yeah, exactly. Over and over and over.
Yeah, and over. Let's skip ahead to this article from True North. This is really something. The RCMP spending $50 million to study how it's systemically racist. I don't know which one I'm supposed to say. Canada's federal police force has set aside over $15 million in taxpayer funding to collect race-based data and study how the profession is systemically racist towards minorities. Have you seen anything but a constant push to get minorities into the RCMP, by the way? Like that seems to be all it is. they're on this recruitment drive to get minorities into the RCMP, and it's hard to claim that an organization is systemically racist when they're actively trying to recruit visible minorities and sexual minorities, for that matter.
And how is 15 million justified to figure this out? Like $15 million is what you need to look into this. That is a lot of money. And why is it so hard to find? You have to pay that much to find the issue. Like, you know what I mean? Don't you? If you're really that racist, isn't it quite obvious where the problematic areas are? And I just think of, the officers themselves. They go through this training, they put their lives at risk for all other citizens, not just citizens of a certain race. And then the RCMP is like, yeah, we need to spend $15 million to show how racist you guys are. Like, that's going to feel pretty low.
Well, and have we not learned anything about what happens in the public sector where you just go around pointing the racist finger at a bunch of people and maybe one of them cracks? As we saw this week with that school principal. I don't know. I just think there are better ways. If you want to spend $15 million on policing, I'm all for it. There are very few things in this country that I think the government should be spending our money on, but policing, RCMP policing, especially in remote communities, including my own, okay. Just no arguments from me. But to spend $15 million to go on some racist witch hunt through the force, I can't see I don't see the benefit.
No, absolutely not. And I would imagine there's quite a stir for some people there, because this isn't the first time we've seen stuff like this with the RCMP too. So this is ongoing. I know that they have to do certain training seminars that go over this. So it's like, how much more needs to be done?
Yeah. Let's just quickly hit this Western Standard article because it relates to BC, if that's okay, Efron. I am, as I said earlier, under the weather, and I am slightly nauseous. Not slightly, very nauseous today. So this is nausea-inducing. If you're feeling like me today, this article from the Western Standard. And I don't have, on a good day, I don't have the stomach for this stuff at all. BC School District gives out pamphlets about drugs and kinky sex. I can't even believe I'm saying kinky sex on TV. Anyway, Nanaimo Ladysmith Public School District is distributing brochures to teenage students about drug use during sex and unusual sexual activities. Good grief. The brochure is being given to kids as young as 14 years old. I would be off the absolute rev limiter if somebody gave this stuff to my kids. Like I don't want, oh God. Am I going to have to read this? I guess so.
Do you want me to read it?
If you snort drugs, I don't even know what these words mean, okay? If you snort drugs, use your own straw or bumper. I don't know what a bumper is. I know what it is in the context of work. Rolled up sticky notes make single-use disposable straws. I thought we were against that. If you smoke drugs such as crystal meth, this is for 14-year-olds. Hey, 14-year-old, if you smoke meth, avoid sharing your pipe. If you do share a pipe, use your own mouthpiece. If you inject drugs, I don't know what these words mean. Avoid sharing any equipment, including syringes, filters, cookers, acidifiers, tourniquets, water. Anyway, avoid, this is something. The risk reduction tools discussed in this guide. Oh gosh, using oral dams on sex toys. Extra care should be taken for activities that involve drawing blood. Good grief.
My goodness.
Or
14 years old.
Causing breaks in the skin, as HIV and Hep C can be passed this way. Avoid getting bodily fluids in your own or in your, oh God, I can't. No, I'm done. I'm good.
If you don't know, if you and I don't know what some of these words are, of course, so many of the 14-year-olds don't. And they're seeing this in school. School is supposed to be this safe place that you go to while your parents are working to get an education. Everything that happens in school is supposed to be safe and healthy and good for you. So when you're learning this stuff, it's not even stigmatizing any of this, by the way, for 14-year-olds. It's just acting like it's a completely normal thing that they're likely to encounter at any moment in time, and giving them advice how to go through it. It's such a BC thing, although I'm sure it's not restricted. I bet you if we dig into this, we'll find out it's happening in other places in Canada too, much like those Planned Parenthood porn cards that were distributed in BC and Saskatchewan.
I didn't even read the worst of this. The third
Oh, you're
image
so
in
okay.
that
Go,
tweet.
go.
No, I can't. I'm not going to read it on air. I'm not even going to read the worst
Oh
of it.
my
And
gosh.
this
Maybe
is
we can
under
show it on the screen.
We could show
Other
it on the screen.
activities?
Yeah.
Is it the other activities and the chances of passing STIs? So I guess they have a little bit there on that. Oh my gosh. Yes, they're teaching them such, like, I would be so livid if this was happening. You know, I guess I should ask my team. Maybe she'll be like, yeah, well, I saw that last year. I don't know, because they think everything that's happening in school is a normal thing. Ugh.
My daughter would
And
come
some
home
things,
crying. She would come home crying, worried that the school was going to be smited from above by a vengeful Old Testament God.
You know what? At the rate we're going, that is a legitimate fear. I'm just saying, like, this is nuts.
I think the
I gotta
earth
look
was
into this
flooded
more.
for the earth might have been flooded for far less than this. Efron advises me that this is funded in part by Public Health Canada, the Public Health Agency of Canada, and this is also in Ontario schools, because we were sent a copy of this. This is this is not good. I'm not feeling great, and this is a nightmare. And I'm just very sorry for parents whose children were exposed to this madness, because it is it's horrific.
It also says condoms and oral dams can be used during BDSM play. Why are you talking to 14-year-old kids about this in school?
Why
is that
are you exposing them to this? Like, I don't want my kids to know about this stuff ever. I hope they never come in contact with any of this stuff. But the Public Health Agency of Canada provides information on sexual health and sexually transmitted diseases. Yeah, this is funded in part by the Public Health Agency of Canada. This is just hideous. But like, why would you be talking to other people's teenagers about this stuff? You absolute freaks. What is wrong
and when
with you?
and when kids are looking at this and going, okay, what's BDSM play, and Googling it on their phone, what the heck are they seeing? Right?
Oh, God.
Like, what's showing up? This is completely unacceptable. And so we might as well let everybody know who's sick of this stuff happening. Please go to stopclassroomgrooming.com. We are well into the summer. And the crazy thing is, us and the other few outlets who will dare to cover the other side of the story on this issue is we are still talking about this, because it is not ending and it's not going anywhere for the fall. Go to stopclassroomgrooming.com. You can sign our petition there. I believe we're sending that to, is it all of the education ministers? So they are, officially put on notice. Even the good ones.
Even the good ones.
The bad and the ugly. They're all getting on notice that, hey, we're aware of this perversion that's happening and we want it to stop. And it's going to take parents having to, get involved in their children's education and really standing up, because this is going to have effects that we don't even know. This is a huge, sick, disturbing, unethical social experiment that's happening to our children through public schools and even some private schools. That's why I homeschool my little one.
And this is why we're sending it to even the good education ministers. Like the one in New Brunswick, Blaine Higgs's education minister, who's basically said, actually, if we're going to show it to other people's kids, we're going to see if the parents are okay with it first. We want to make sure that those education ministers know, like, look, all these people are cheering for you to continue to do the right thing. So not only on the adverse side, like, these people want you to stop being disgusting lunatics, but also we acknowledge that you're doing the right thing, and we need you to continue to do the right thing. And we know it's difficult in a culture that rewards hedonism and vulgarity and perversion to be, someone who is willing to do the right thing by other people's children. We understand how difficult it is, and we need to support those of them who are out there doing that, despite all the forces of the culture. One last thing before we move in.
Okay.
And then we'll get to these chats because we're over time. Stay-at-home mom in Ontario fined $37,000 for organizing anti-restriction COVID protests. Kimberly Neudorf was fined for organizing demonstrations that helped give the Elgin County town a reputation as the national anti-restriction epicenter. We should be giving this lady an award and not a fine. The COVID-19 public health crisis may be over, but a stay-at-home mom who organized two large anti-restriction protests in Aylmer in 2020 found out there's still a hefty cost for thumbing her nose at pandemic emergency measures. So anyway, she was hit with two towns, or two fines. And basically the judge said this was disruptive, it was planned, this was encouraged, the limitations were in place, they ought to have been respected. But she was not a super spreader event. And this was in Aylmer, same town as Church of God. Oh, no. Yes. And I know that there are two Aylmers sort of in Ontario and Quebec. So I'm assuming this is the same one. But she was not a super spreader event. And if she had hosted a Black Lives Matter protest or a Pride Parade, it would have been fine. But she was speaking against the government. Yeah, it is Aylmer, Ontario. And I can tell you it's just based on the images from the crowd. There are many people from the Church of God who were there. And look at this disruptive crowd.
I know, so rowdy. Oh my gosh.
Let me be with my friends. Peace and freedom. Ooh. And that's $37,000 for them. Yeah.
Our prime minister would have been taking a knee if it was Black Lives Matter. I mean, this is just so disgusting. How's this still going on? Why is this not dropped? And she's a stay-at-home mom dealing with this. And of course, it's a peaceful protest, or else we would have heard otherwise. Yeah, look at that picture. I can't believe this is Canada. I'm still in shock about the trauma that we've gone through to our so-called, charter rights. And that's a lot of money. I feel really bad.
One thing I'll note here, the public prosecutor actually wanted her to pay $53,000 in penalties. He said you have to let the community. But the judge erred on the side of, I guess, caution, giving her $37,000. It was like when when they wanted to give Church in the Vine close to $1 million in fines, and the judge is like, we'll do it 80. As though that's somehow better. But anyways, you have to let the community know that if... Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead. You finish.
I was just going to read what the Crown had to say. You have to let the community know that if you're going to organize this type of activity, which affects the lives of hundreds of people, you mean a peaceful protest? Okay.
Outside.
Outside. Didn't abduct anybody to be there. They all look pretty willing to be there. That you're going to pay a price dearly in order that someone is not going to do it again. What did she do? She didn't affect the lives of anybody who, it's not a super spread event. All she did was object to the government. Nobody was endangered. Nobody was there that didn't want to be there, and nobody got COVID from her events.
No, and this judge still wears a mask in the car, I'm going to bet. It's just,
for sure.
I am thankful, BC, as far as the protests during COVID went, I think we probably had it the best, definitely one of the best across Canada for that. We even had a Supreme Court ruling where Justice Hinkson said, they have the right to peacefully gather. But in that same ruling, he said, but Christians don't, well, not Christians, but people don't have the right to worship in a church. But we were able to peacefully protest. We didn't have quite as much issues as some other places, like there in Aylmer, obviously. So it's horrible.
Yeah. Let's get to some of these chats. We've got one from Wonder Woman Wells. Says, if the women, regarding David Menzies' story on the male rugby player. If the women affected by this refuse to stand up, they are partially to blame. All of those who refuse to speak up against this nonsense are to be blamed that it has even gotten this far. Well, I will agree with you in this instance, but there are other times where, and David and I have talked about this on air, that so if this is club level rugby, and that's what it looks like, just, you sign up for the team, you get to play on the team. I do know that some coaches have said they would bench their teams because there's really nothing to lose at club level. It's not like there are university scouts there or anything like that, national level scouts or anything. No sponsors, nothing. It's just club level. Okay, I get it. But if you're benching a team at a provincial level, rep level, university level, you might be denying the women an opportunity to be seen by a scout, by a university, by a professional scout, by benching them. And so it has to be sort of an individual decision. Do I play against this man? And this is the horrible part of it, because it puts these women and coaches in between a rock and a hard place. Do we play against this dude and potentially subject ourselves to a career-ending injury?
Yeah.
Or do we sit this one out and stagnate our career right here because we weren't seen on the field by scouts and sponsors and the people who would give us opportunities to progress in our rugby career or our university education? Because a lot of these high-level athletes, this is their way into a good school, in which that they would never be able to afford one otherwise.
Yeah.
This is their national pathway, right? This is their Olympic team pathway. And if you're not seen by the Olympic coaches because you didn't play this game, what then, right? So it is just a terrible predicament that they put these women in.
It's so wrong on so many levels. And are we going to start to see, if trans men are, it's so confusing, if they start getting to that other category, are they going to be scouted? And how fair is that, right? If they get scouted to go on to a higher level. No, is that not going to happen?
Well, it depends, right? So this is club, and you can get away with a lot of stuff at the club level. But the World Rugby Union said definitely 100% no way. And that is the governing body of really the competitive side of rugby, the side of, so club level, it's supposed to be just for fun. Although if people take it pretty seriously, except if you're watching the men's beer league, where I'm like, where's your water? You guys are drinking pitchers of beer on the sidelines. But once it gets to like rep level, they sort of are governed by those that other body.
Okay.
So, hopefully it doesn't infect the more advanced levels of rugby. But when you have men playing at club and girls are playing at club, it's just a catastrophe waiting to happen, and I'm surprised it hasn't been much worse.
Yeah. Fraser McBurney, again, thank you so much for your donations. Donates $5. And I think another $5 US, and says, something is going to happen big when they start bringing out flying saucers and ETs. I've seen this happen many times in my life. They need something to distract the people. Remember, you know what? I saw a video about them talking about aliens the other day with that whistleblower. I think that was last night I saw it. And I'm like, I'm just not buying it. And I don't think anybody's buying it, which is interesting. Everybody seems to just be like, yeah, they're talking about aliens and UFOs, but oh, look, Target has a sale or something. I don't know.
You know what is, I was thinking about that last night. I was so fascinated because like every genre of alien movie, like the alien comes to Earth and we all like freak out because we can't handle it, or the like powers that be say, oh, we can't tell the people that the aliens are coming to kill all of them because they'll freak out and they won't be able to handle it. Apparently you can tell us that the aliens are here, and because we don't seem to care. Like,
we don't care. I'm wondering, are they just going to say they need to tax us more to protect us from the aliens? It's like,
we're going to do an alien tax. You know what? Tax the aliens. Tax them. But I found it fascinating that they're like in these hearings talking about finding biologics. Like, but I'm like, you mean bodies? Like corp alien? Are you finding living alien? Like they wouldn't say like we found them alive, or if we found them corpses, or just like pieces or bacteria or whatever. Like they never told me what biologics means, but when they're talking about like literally alien life and the whole world is shrugging, is it because we're so desensitized because we don't believe them? Maybe we're too like looking at our phone for clicks and likes and shares. Is that where we are on this? Or are we so destabilized by the madness of the last 3 years that like aliens coming and we're like, I guess, what else?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of that, but I can't help but remember what my mom would say when I'm young. And she would say, oh, when they start talking about the aliens, remember that's the excuse for the rapture. And I'm like, that's in the back of my head too. It's like, where'd all those evil Christian people go? It was the aliens we've been telling you about since 2020.
You know what's funny is I remember having a conversation with somebody from work here, and I realized how crazy it sounded the second I said it, but I was like, I don't care how crazy it is. It's right. Because I'm like, sometimes it's not always aliens. Sometimes it's demons. And I just sort of left the conversation at that, and they're like, what? I'm like, yeah.
True story.
Think about it. Yep.
But this proves that that's one last thing. I mean, when they say conspiracy theory, they have been making people feel like they are literally insane for so long if they say they saw a UFO or an alien. And now they're just like, oh, by the way, they're real. So.
Yeah. Yeah. And everyone's like, well, I guess. Like we just lived through the absolute madness of the last 3 years, and we found that every power that be completely lied to us. We found that Christmas was illegal. People were arrested for protesting. Some crazy lady said that honk honk is Heil Hitler. Everybody's a white supremacist, and they're like, and the aliens are here, and we're like, fine, I guess, whatever. They've just like burned out our adrenal glands, I think is what it is, to the point that we're like, we found alien life forms and they're here, and we're like, sure.
Yeah, it's right up there with drag queen story times. It's like, meh.
Yeah, we got people telling me they don't know what a woman is, and the aliens are here, and I'm like, yeah, you know what? I guess 100%. I guess, yep. This is the state of the world. We've got one more chat, and then I think we'll get out of here because we're 20 minutes over. Up True Breed gives us $20. I watch you all the time from USA. Be blessed. Well, thank you very much. That's very kind of you. We do have a lot of American viewers who are curious about just how horrible it is here in Canada with regard to civil liberties. Your constitution is a restraining order against the government, and I admire it greatly. It's probably the second greatest written document on the face of the earth outside of the Bible for its defense of civil liberties and its understanding of human nature, that there's an inclination towards tyranny constantly, and we must always guard against it. And your founding fathers knew that. With that, we should wrap up the show. It is nearly 20 minutes past. I'm sure they need this. Well, I'm sure Olivia needs to be doing something else, and likely Efron too. And I know I definitely do.
I have to as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was great. It was good.
Yeah, it flew right by, right? Sorry, once again, I talked too much, and thank you, Efron, for being so quick on the ad break there. I want to thank everybody who tuned in. I want to thank you, Drea, for bearing with me as we got through the show today, and everybody behind the scenes in the Toronto head office, but also across the country, who makes sure the show is available for you to watch whenever you want to watch it. Thanks to everybody who pitched in to keep the lights on, and as David Menzies always says, stay sane.
Soul.